So Marathon des Sables video, take one. Pretty much busting through a bunch of sand dunes. Pretty much been busting through a bunch of sand dunes for most of my entire life.
So the MDS, the Marathon des Sables, it's approximately a 250k multi-stage race across the desert. For anybody who's watching this is about to go out there, you'll be very familiar with what the format is. You basically run anything from sort of 30k's up to 100k's on different days. You're going to be facing heat, sand, decent amount of ascent, carrying all your own kit, and basically putting yourself through probably what is one of the toughest challenges you might have ever faced yet. And it brings with it, I know from my experience, I first ran the MDS back in 2015, and before you go out there and do an event like this, if you've never encountered a multi-stage race in these kind of conditions before, it can be very nerve-wracking. You don't know what the desert's going to hold for you. You don't really know how your kit's going to hold up, and there are many, many questions about what's going to happen to you when you get out into Morocco. So one of the biggest things that I did in my approach before I went to the MDS was to avoid going out overcooked. So I know a lot of people would do, the instinct is that you're going to do a multi-stage race where you've got to run a huge amount of distance, and you think, okay, in order to prepare myself for that physically and psychologically, I'm going to go and run back-to-back marathons, I'm going to do back-to-back 40-mile days, I'm going to go hard so I've got that kind of distance done, and psychologically I know I can achieve it. I went at it the opposite way. I didn't run very many miles in the build-up to it. I spent a lot of time in the gym, but I made sure that when I arrived on the start line of the MDS, I was actually underfit, and through the week, my fitness kind of came out. So I built my fitness whilst I was there running. And on day one, I suffered a little bit. Day two, I felt stronger. Day three, I felt much stronger. My final day, the marathon day, I ran a 4:20 marathon, and I was flying, and I felt at my best, not at my worst. So if you want to go into the MDS feeling kind of almost a bit underfit, I think, and you'll get your fitness during the 5 days that you're out there. So kit is as important as fitness for the MDS. The logistics of all of your kit and your food is kind of half the battle here. You spend an awful lot of time fiddling with kit, worrying about kit, moving stuff in pockets from your bags, trying to find plasters and bits and pieces to put on your feet when things go wrong. So getting the right kit is actually really, really crucial. And I think one of the biggest things that you need to do is make sure that your kit works very efficiently for you. So it's very easy to overlook, but when you get tired, is your food going to be in a pocket that's in the right place? Are you going to be able to transfer that very easily, either mid-run or in aid stations? There are lots of other sort of tricks that you can do to minimize weight. Is one of the huge issues with the MDS. You've got to carry all of your own kit. Someone else provides the tent, your sleeping bag, your cooking pot, your cooking fuel, all your food. You've made decisions like whether I take 3 pairs of socks or 4. I really strongly advise, and this is very, very anal, but measure, weigh everything and try and shave weight where you can. I was meticulous about this because it's amazing. I vacuum sealed all of my food. So rather than take it in the packaging that it comes in, which can be really heavy, you can buy a vacuum sealing machine that people use for cooking, and vacuum packs, decant your food, seal it, it makes it tighter, it's more compact, it's easier to fit into the bag. And then I trimmed the plastic off. And this is going to sound crazy, but I weighed the plastic that I trimmed, and actually there's of the waste packaging and even the little bits of plastic that I trimmed off the edge of the vac sealed packs, I saved 250 grams. that's some more food basically, or less weight you have to carry. And believe me, when you're 50 k's into the long day, this all makes a big difference. So another example of that kind of thinking that's really useful. I knew that maybe I might have a problem if my bag split or something goes wrong with your kit malfunctions and you want some other bits. So I gaffer taped my bottles. So this gaffer tape, you can take it off and use it basically to fix things. Little tricks like that. If you take poles, hiking poles, you can gaffer tape the poles. So you've got things stored in a sensible way rather than sort of taking a roll of gaffer tape. And I think that's the one major thing is really, really think about the weight that you're going to carry. Everyone will ask, how many pairs of socks should I take? Should I take fresh t-shirts? Should I take a change of clothes? 3 pairs of socks. I think you basically want a pair of socks for each day. It's nice to put on a fresh pair of socks. Don't worry about taking clean t-shirts, clean base layers. You're going to stink. The kit will stink. There's some kit that you can buy, Ex-Bionic, Innovate have base layers that feature antibacterial properties, so they don't smell as much. But you're in the desert. It doesn't really matter. It's chaos out there. So don't worry about freshening up your kit. You want to save weight. With the socks, it was lovely to put on a new pair of socks each day. Another big thing about kit is basically people will ask you about sand. And there's a huge fear that the sand is going to be the problem for you. So you definitely wear gaiters. If you can, get your gaiters, the Velcro stitched to your shoes, send them off, have the Velcro stitched to your shoes and attach them like that. That, for me, is by far the best way for them to be resilient against the sand. But weirdly, the sand isn't really the problem. I didn't have any sand leaking into my shoes at all whilst I was running. The big problem is actually that you're going to be running across a riverbed full of fist-sized stones. So you've got to make sure that you've got shoes that are going to offer some protection, I think, in the toe, because you kick a lot of these sort of stones and that can help you with a little bit of stability. Much of the ground that you're running on is going to be quite hard and compact, so think about your shoes in that sense. You don't want, I don't think you want shoes that are too grippy trail shoes. You want to have a nice, happy balance. And I think the sand is one thing, but it's not the worst thing. Don't take Vaseline as your kind of anti-chafe. You want to. There's some great stuff called 2 Toms Sport Shield and 2 Toms Blister Shield. The Sport Shield is like a roll-on. I use that, and if you use Vaseline anywhere and sand gets into that, it's basically you're going to have a lot of problems because it's going to cut you to shreds. Blister Shield was a powder that I put into my socks, and it helped it lets moisture out, but not back in, so it keeps your feet dry, and that helps with blisters. So there's some crucial things about that. Don't worry too much about the sand. Do worry about the heat. I guess that's another training tip. If you can. Some people will go and spend time in a heat chamber. There's heat chambers at Kingston Uni and other universities. You don't have to do that. Actually, the guys at Kingston told me when I did it that, they didn't actually have enough appointments for me to book in. So they said, well, you can recreate this situation by spending, 20 to 30 minutes in a sauna. Just do it every other day for a period of 2 or 3 weeks. And that works to acclimatise your body to heat. You're basically trying to get yourself to sweat at a quicker point. And that's a really good tip. I would definitely do that from about 3 weeks out from the MDS, start doing a training session in the sauna, just sitting there. It's horrible. It sounds like fun. It's not. It's misery. But when you get out to the desert, that kind of acclimatization will be a massive help. Nutrition is good. You have to have tested all your kit, obviously. You want to have tested what you're going to eat. A lot of people will complain that they get hungry in the MDS, and you're facing a challenge, which is the more calories you take, the more you have to carry. So as you're trying to strike that balance between weight and calorie content. You've also got to take things that you're going to enjoy and look forward to eating. The really interesting thing that I found is that things that I thought would be fantastic when I tried them at home, and I thought there would be treats in the desert, when you get out to the desert, actually aren't. So I thought I took some cocoa powder, and I thought every night at the end I'd boil up some water, have a little cocoa before I go to sleep in the tent, it'd be nice and warm, and that would be a cosy thing to do. It just didn't really hit the mark. I thought that the expedition foods that tasted rank in the kitchen, when you're out in the desert and you've just done 60 miles, actually they tasted delicious because you're so hungry. So think about it, you have to almost when you're trying these things, you have to take yourself a little bit outside of your environment at home. Go for variety if you can. I took lots of small vacuum sealed selection of snacks, so I sort of take a handful of different nuts, and I weighed them obviously, and I made sure that I had a walnut, a Brazil nut, and a small amount of nuts in, just enough, but for that variety even of taste and texture. And I had a few little kind of vegetable crisps, but I had little treats. It was a bit like that principle that you have a bit with airplane food, where it's like you're opening a lot of different things, and throughout the day you can snack on different things. And you spend a lot of time in campsite as well, dealing with boredom with not much to do. And so having those things along the way is key. And think as much about what's going to happen immediately post-race with your recovery shakes and drinks, and then in the campsite before you sort of get to the point where you're going to have your dinner, which is basically your dehydrated meal. The other thing to consider, I think, is breakfast. And a lot of people will get up and they'll boil up water and they'll make, again, another rehydrated breakfast. So you can get porridges. They're quite heavy in terms of the amount of weight you're carrying. I went for a liquid breakfast, so I had a meal replacement from somebody like Herbalife, almost like it's a bit like Slim Fast basically, with extra protein and an extra little bit of carb powder in it, and a 33 shake. And I put them into my bottle, bit of water in the morning. You've drunk that. It took me about 5 minutes. Everyone else is spending 40 minutes ratting about making a fire and having something that's quite heavy. And this is the other important thing about the MDS. When you wake up in the morning, the people come and pull the tents away from you very, very early on. So you're lying there in a sleeping bag, and the guys who put up the tents and move them just arrive at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and they don't wait for you. They just take the tent down, and they'll roll you off the rug, and you end up in the sand. So you don't have an awful lot of time in the morning to prep and get ready for the race, and there's lots of stuff that you have to do. If you can minimise the faff, it takes away a lot of the stress. So you also get more water in. So I found it quite good for sort of that initial morning kind of hydration. So I would totally recommend looking at having a liquid breakfast or at least a cold breakfast, rather than something that you've got to cook up, because that all takes time and faff. Major thing, self-preservation. When you're out there running, the instinct can be to get to the last 5Ks of the first day, and you just want to get home, and you're going to be running across like one of those dried up riverbed of sort of little boulders, and you think, well, I'm going to smash this out and get home and recover. And actually, you should do the opposite. I saw so many people rolling their ankles or hitting those stones and getting blisters on their feet. Kick back, take your time, pick your way through that boulder field so that you don't get blisters, and always think about what's going to happen the next day. You've got to be thinking, I need to get up tomorrow morning and go again. And so what happens today isn't the end of this race. This is all about actually making me ready and prepared to go again tomorrow. And that can be from tiny little decisions about when and what you drink, or getting enough salt, to not taking on the long day, not smashing a hill that comes 10Ks to go because you've still got a marathon to go. It's about when you get back, get your legs up in the tent, get your recovery drink down very quickly. Take care of yourself basically, and think about what's going to happen the next day. No heroics on day one. Save your heroics for feeling brilliant on the last 20K of the final day. And I approach it that way, and I tell you, when you're flying past people on that final day feeling good, it's a very nice place to be. It's not such a nice place to be if in the first day you smashed out that 5K across that stony riverbed, and you've now been carrying blisters for 5 days as a result of it, and you're hobbling. So look after yourself, and just, self-preservation, basically. I said, test my memory now. The breakdown for the days for us, it was something like a 30 kilometre day one, a 33 kilometre day two, and we did a 30 kilometre day three. It was almost 80 or 90 kilometres for day four, rest day, and then a marathon distance of 42 for the final day. Mm-hmm. So the good thing about that is actually, if you think about those first days, they're hard and they're long enough. You're going to be out there on those for maybe 5 hours, depending on how quick you are as a runner, but you could be 5 to 7, 8 hours out there, and that's okay, but you've got time to ease yourself into the terrain and into the race. You don't want to be pushing the limit on day one and getting back broken. You kind of want to get a feel for the place and grow into it. And there are no easy days. They'll give you a road book when you arrive in the bivouac, and you'll start to see the detail of the terrain of the course. And even though some days are shorter, there's always things in the day that are going to make it more difficult. The shorter days will have terrain that's more tricky, maybe a bit more of a technical downhill, or you're going to climb up a big sandy Jebel mountain. I guess that's another tip: is study the road book and think about the points at which that day might prove difficult or have some psychological milestones. I found it very useful on some of the days to look at when you knew you'd finished the last climb. For example, when you climbed the last big Jebel, and that was a point, if you can feel good when you've got to the top of that Jebel. That was, again, self-preservation. I would always think about get to the top of that Jebel feeling like you're still in the fight and feeling okay, and then you can see where you want to go after that. But yeah, study the road book. It's really useful. It's a mix. The brilliant thing about the MDS is you see all ages, all sizes, genders, abilities. There's everyone from the super fast, elites down to people who actually start on day one walking, and they walk the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Most of the people in the middle of the pack will do a mix. I walked plenty of sections, and again, going back to that self-preservation thing, I walked many of the climbs. And this is the thing, in your training as well, if you're good at marching, basically like a soldier, tabbing it out and hiking uphill, keep your heart rate down as much as possible, you're going to be as quick as the people who are running. And so expect to walk and actually use it sensibly. So sometimes I saw people who were trying to run through sand, deep sand, and they're not moving any quicker. I was walking alongside them. Only my heart rate was at 120 and theirs was at 180. And then when you got out of that sand, we hit the flat, I could run, and they had to walk still. So be smart, if you feel like something is taking more energy than the gain that you're making, relax, man. Sit back, walk, and totally embrace that. Don't feel like you have to run it all. It's about conquering the distance and doing it in any way that you can, being smart about it.